There we go. We'll get that started. But anyway, we know that there are a lot of emotions that go around buying a house. So let us know how you're feeling because hopefully by the end we can fix that and make it an exciting feeling that you have. Okay, so what to expect here. So this is our quick agenda for tonight. We're going to first take a minute and go over who we are because I think it's really important that you know who's giving you this information so you know it's coming from a verified and a valuable source and a knowledgeable source that knows what they're talking about. We're going to read you a couple of client testimonials so you know it's not us just saying, yes, you can listen to us, that we do actually have clients that value our opinions and we've helped out before. And then we're going to get right into the meat of it. We'll only spend a few minutes on those other things, but we're going to get right into the meat of it and go with the mistakes to avoid when buying a home. And then we're going to go over the costs so that when you leave here, you actually have all of the costs, at least a general idea of what exactly everything's going to cost you, not just closing costs, but the costs of everything and every step of the way, how that works out. And then we'll have the Q&A session at the end. So make sure that you're keeping track of any of those questions you have, dropping them in the chat box, and we'll keep track of them. Okay, are you guys ready to get started? Let's do this. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Megan Haynes with Heart to Home AZ at Realty One Group, and I am super excited that you guys are here. I'm a local East Valley realtor, and I truly do love what I do. Helping people buy or sell isn't just a job to me. It's about building relationships. It's about solving problems and making what can be a stressful process feel a whole lot easier. So whether it's your first home or your forever home, I'm here to walk you through every single step of it with honesty and heart, and we'll try and make it as fun as we can as well. That's why I named this team Heart to Home, because I truly believe that you would put your heart into your home. It's the center of your family and your life and everything. And so we put our heart into helping you find that home too. And then I want to introduce you to my teammate, Kellie Quinn. Kellie, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey everyone, I am Kellie. I am proud to call Arizona my home since I was a kid. I love calling the Valley my home. Growing up here did give me a deep love of our community. I'm a dedicated hockey mom. I am an animal advocate. I am a realtor with a heart for helping people. So joining Heart to Home
Oh,
easy was
baby.
pretty easy. We are all heart, as in the title.
Kellie.
Hi.
Sounds like we have someone's mic on, if you could mute it.
I truly believe that a home is a sanctuary. So I'm all about guiding families and their pets, to that special place.
All right.
I'm going to be in our chat room today. I'm excited you're all here. Please jump in, shoot me anything you want in that chat. Keep it, interactive, make it fun for you. And I hope you gain some information. And I'm going to pass the microphone over to Matthew.
All
Hey
right, Matthew,
everyone,
you
my
want
name
to?
is,
There you
yeah, I
go.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hey, my name is Matthew Lucas. I'm a loan officer with Nova Home Loans. Pretty straightforward. I specialize in helping first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, anyone looking to refinance or find the right mortgage solution for their goals. So my approach is pretty centered on education, transparency, and making the home financing process as smooth as possible and as stress-free as possible. So whether you're navigating, your first time buying a home, down payment assistance, trying to build long-term financial wealth, I'm here to help guide you every step of the way with Heart to Home here as your realtors.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and a couple of quick points to remember about all of us. We really work off of a client first mentality. So it truly matters to us that what is best for you is all that matters to us at the end of the day. And so much so that if, as you go through this, you may be like, oh, maybe I'm not ready to move forward with this, but we are here to help you get ready to buy that home in the future if it's not a possibility right now. So keep that in mind throughout. If you're ready for it, we're more than happy to help you get into that home as soon as possible. We can help either way, but we do go off of what is best for you is best for us. And that's because 97% of our business is referrals. And at the end of the day, we want you to be able to say to people, they were so great to work with that no matter what, I want to tell my friends and family to use them and take and work with those referrals. We want you to have the best experience so that you refer us out. So let's dive in. Um, okay, and let's just read really quick about a little bit of testimonials really quick. So this is Megan is the most diligent, hardworking, skilled, effective, driven, focused real estate agent I've ever had the privilege of working with. During my house buying years, that would be 5 homes over the past 50 years. She functions at a much higher level than most realtors. She has forever raised the bar in my home buying experience. And I chose this review because I met this client as he came into an open house one day. And he came into the open house and he told me how much he disliked realtors and how he thought we were all kind of lazy and he never wanted to work with a realtor again in his life. And somehow I convinced him to let me go show him a couple houses, and it turned into this wonderful relationship. And I've actually helped him with another house and his son with a house. And we've become really great friends since then. And working with us actually changed his opinion of realtors in general, at least of us. So I like to share that one. This one's about Kellie. This person had the pleasure of working with Kellie as a realtor, and they truly can't say enough good things about the experience. From start to finish, Kellie made the entire process incredibly smooth, stress-free, and even enjoyable. Her professionalism, attention to detail, and genuine care for her clients were evident every step of the way. She guided me through each phase with clarity and confidence, always staying one step ahead to ensure nothing fell through the cracks. Communication was seamless, and she was always available to answer questions, offer advice, and provide reassurance whenever needed. And I think that's super important right there, is that the communication is so important. We want to make sure that there is communication and it's always crystal clear between both parties throughout the process. And being available to answer questions and offer advice and provide that reassurance whenever is needed, especially if this is your first time buying a home. Sometimes you need a lot of reassurance. We know there's a lot of times where we're on the phone with you late at night, just talking you off a ledge and saying, yes, you're doing the right thing. And that's okay. We're here to do that. What stood out most was how Kellie turned what could have been an overwhelming process into something truly manageable and exciting. Her knowledge of the market, negotiation skills, and unwavering dedication helped me feel supported and warmed throughout. If you're looking for someone who truly goes above and beyond to make your home buying and selling experience a great one, I cannot recommend Kellie highly enough. And I think that's another important point, is that keeping you informed throughout the process. Every step of the way, we make sure that you know exactly what is going on and you're informed. And then this one, I'm not going to read this whole one because it's kind of quick, but basically it's just that I met these clients at an event that we were holding, and we met them. It was funny. They actually ended up buying the very first house we saw. They said, we want a yard with a house more than a house. And this one we found had the perfect house. It was raining. It was a crazy experience. But after escrow, I went the extra mile for them and threw a get to know your neighbor party and invited all the neighbors in our cul-de-sac. It was a great event and made settling in and meeting our neighbors a tremendous success. We were happy to find Megan and super glad we have become friends even after our transaction. I highly recommend Megan. She is the agent you want in your corner. She is knowledgeable in her craft and super easy to work with. Thank you, Megan, for being our friend and realtor. And I just love this one because I think it really does show how much heart we do put into every one of our clients. And most of them do become our friends after this, after the process is even over. We stay in touch. We do tons of fun events with everybody and see them multiple times throughout the year and really have built great bonds with them. So that is us. Now let's get on to why you signed up really quick. So here's what you can expect. Our job is to help you become the most well-prepared home buyer in Arizona. So go ahead and say yes, raise your hand, say yay, if that is what you are looking for. We want to make sure that you have your questions answered when you leave here tonight. And if you don't, drop those questions in the chat. And if you still have some questions at the end of this, we will have a booking link, and Kellie's going to drop that booking link in there. So you can have a one-on-one consultation with us. It's absolutely free. It's absolutely zero pressure, but we can go through what's going on in your life, where you're at in your situation, and set a plan together to get you into buying that home. So Kellie's going to drop that link in the chat again. You can go ahead and click on that to book anytime with Kellie or I and talk to Matthew and see where you're at. So know that's there always. Okay, let's see. Why is this not clicking forward? Because my mouse is going crazy. Okay, so let's drop right into, yep, that's right. Sorry. Here we go. A little technical difficulties there. I got it. Okay, so we're going to go over the home buyer mistakes first. So home buyer mistake number one is buyers don't take advantage of specialized loan programs. So who here has heard of first-time buyer programs? Have any of you heard of any of these other specialized loan programs? Go ahead and let us know in the chat, if anyone has. If you've talked to a lender yet, raise your hand. Let me know. If you haven't talked to a lender, you can say no in the chat. If you have, let us know if you've talked to a lender at this point. And I think it's super important that we're going to really nail this point into you so hard because you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't know what you can qualify for. You don't know what loan programs you can take advantage of. You don't know any of that until you actually sit down and talk to a lender. And what I found is so many people, this is probably the step that holds so many people back from buying that house or taking that first step into getting into one, is that they're afraid. They think their credit may not be good enough. They think they might have to put too much money down. They don't understand that there are so many options to help you get into a house. And like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So talking to that lender is probably the most important thing you're going to do. And we're probably going to drill that into you more than you want, but it's so important. So make sure that you do talk to that lender if you haven't yet. Okay, so let's go through some different loan programs. And Matthew is going to pipe in if there's anything he wants to add to it. But there's a lot of loan programs, but they're all dependent on different things. So some of them may match you and some of them may not. So there are homes that are specific to the location of the home. Okay. Homes that are like USDA loans, they're more rural. And sometimes these loans can even affect across the street because this area is considered more rural or than even the neighborhood across the street from it is. So you really need to look at the specific area you're going in, talk to the lender and see if that area or that house, qualifies for one of these homes. But they can be great. You want to speak a little bit to those USDA loans? Because we might have some out in, some of these outlying communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So USDA is a phenomenal program because it allows you most of the time to even purchase with 0% down. So it's kind of unique because most of the time VA tends to be the only one that gets that kind of love, but USDA is an option. There's also, what's unique is like Fannie and Freddie, which are your basically two main conventional loans that are out there, have first-time homebuyer programs available that are going to be dependent on basically where the home and property is. And that also then takes into account what your income is, and that can kind of qualify you for potentially lower interest rate, lower mortgage insurance. So knowing where the property is and if there's a program that's unique to that property is definitely beneficial for you for achieving your goals to purchase a home.
All right. Yeah. Now, some of these loan programs are also dependent upon your income. Sometimes if you have a lower income and you think I can't qualify for a loan, you might be able to because there might be programs out there that are dependent upon your income, not, being under a certain amount as well. I know that's how we got into our first house. My husband said, I don't think we can qualify for a house. And I said, oh, no, we can because I just bought one. So back in the day, that actually happened. Um, Some of them may require you to hang on to the home for a couple years. So I think did you say it was 1 year now instead of two?
So some depends, right? So some of the programs out there will have basically requirements that if you receive certain assistance, that you have to remain in that mortgage for 2 to 3 years sometimes. And mostly that's because you're getting funds to help you purchase that home, and they want to make sure that you're not just automatically refinancing out of those homes, and those funds are not going to what they're supposed to go towards, i.e., working on the interest rate and repaying back those funds so they're available for other consumers. So most time it's 2 to 3 years, which they'll have some sort of you got to stay in this mortgage for this certain amount of time frame.
Right. And don't let someone tell you that's not the case because they do audit those houses and that can be a real thing. So
Yeah, well,
you do.
that's a real thing, especially if you're buying homes, like if you're saying you're purchasing a home, maybe your primary, and you don't make it your primary, those audits can actually last anywhere up to 1 to 5 years. But
Mhm.
mostly it's about, hey, if you're buying a property to become your primary property, you should make sure that you're moving into it within 60 days, but they can audit that property for years afterwards.
Right. Very good. Some have interest rates that are more favorable than others, like FHA loans, right? A lot of the time, those interest rates are a lot more favorable. Do you want to talk a little bit about FHA loans and that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. FHA is probably my personal favorite first-time home buyer program, even though it is beneficial for those who have purchased properties before. But anytime you're getting government-backed loans, so FHA, VA, and USDA, you're typically going to get much more favorable terms when it comes to your interest rate. Most of the time, they do that because they understand that they want to make the property more valuable to you, and they understand that you're going to be coming in with less money down, potentially with like a conventional mortgage. But the biggest backer to that is the fact that it has mortgage insurance on it. So anytime you typically have mortgages that have mortgage insurance with them, you're going to see a little bit of a reduction in what your interest rate could be. So yeah, government-backed loans, FHA, they're phenomenal programs to help you buy your home for the first time for sure.
Right. Yeah. I think you just got my daughter into one for killer rate too with
I
that.
did, yeah.
Some are 100% financing. Now, a lot of these are programs that the government kind of comes in and says, or somebody says, hey, we've got this big chunk of money to give these loans out that are 100% financing. And so those specific loans may only last for a certain amount of time. They kind of last till that money's gone to be repaid back. So you kind of really need to work with a lender, get working with them if you're even a year out from buying. And then you can kind of keep tabs. Hey, are there any of those programs coming in? Kind of thing. Anything to add to that, or is that good
No, I
enough?
think that's, yeah, no, I think that's good enough. I mean, honestly, there's just a lot of programs available out there. I think the biggest step that everyone on this call is taking right now is learning more about the
Yeah.
opportunities that are presented in front of them. Having a good real estate agent in your corner, like Megan or Kelly, is going to be tremendous. But then also having a conversation with a lender so that we can review your entire life story. I like to call it your story. I want to know what your story is so I know how to put you in the best position and find the right program to help you achieve your goals of purchasing a home.
Right, right. So yeah, so those options are out there. They don't always last long. So you may have heard someone say, with this one here, the 100%, you may have heard someone say, oh, I got this great thing. And then you go out to ask somebody about it and they're like, well, that doesn't exist. Well, it did, but it doesn't now kind of thing. So you have to kind of
There's
keep tabs
Yeah,
to
that's a
know.
great point. There's really
Hmm.
some unique programs out there. A lot of times they're backed by like local communities, or they're backed by maybe like a small bank or credit union, or sometimes they're backed by like the state specifically. But those programs are going to have a very small, limited amount of funds. So, like for example, some of like the lighthouse programs that Maricopa and Pima County will do, there's only typically like 2 to 3 million that's available for those funds to be used.
Hmm.
So if you have 100,000 individuals applying to get that grant of that program, typically only 10, 15 people will actually get the opportunity to use those funds. But the benefit is there's a plethora of programs out there to help people purchase their home. So just because you don't get that one doesn't mean it's closing the door on your opportunities.
Exactly. Okay, some are grant down or payment grants on or loans to get into the house to use to get your down payment. So if you don't have enough money for a down payment, sometimes you can qualify for grants or a loan that will actually help you cover that cost of the payment, cover the cost of the down payment to get you into the house. My daughter actually used this one on her first house for her condo to get into it. So it's awesome because after a couple of years, they basically gave her a second mortgage on the house to cover that down payment. And then when that down payment was paid off in 2 years, then that her mortgage payment went down overall. So it was really a great program. And she was only 21 when she got into that condo, and it really helped her to do that. So those are possibilities. Now, some are grants, but most of them you do have to pay back. Some things are about jobs. So I'm sure you've all heard of the VA loans, and that's a big one. But there's also loans for other jobs, including police, fire, teachers, doctors, any first responder kind of thing. Those are some really great lending options that are out there. So if you have one of those jobs, you really, really want to talk um, uh, to Matthew about that and see what you can qualify for. There are first-time homebuyer programs out there, and those are great. Do you have anything on those right now?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
absolutely. I mean, there's quite a few new programs that have been rolling out, especially as we start seeing the market settle down a little bit, as if we start talking about the feds and the bond market and so forth. We're starting to see a lot of these first-time home buyer programs start to enter back into the environment. So there's been some really new, amazing programs like Arizona's Home, for example, is a phenomenal one. It's kind of zip code and income specific, but it gives you the potential to get up to 3 to 5% of your down payment covered, and it is a forgivable loan. So a lot of these first-time homebuyer programs, they're either going to be repayable or they're going to be forgivable. But again, the point is that there's a lot of programs out there. We just got to know which one fits your needs the most.
right. So there's that. And then the nice thing is you can even sometimes stack these on top of each other. I know that I've seen the down payment grant used with an FHA loan, the down payment grant used with a first-time homebuyer loan. So there's a lot of different things that you can mix together to get the best thing. But the first thing you have to do, and if you want to type it or say it out loud with me, is call Matthew. You need to talk to a lender. Okay. Super, super important because, like I said, you do not know what you don't know. And so you might not know what what your story will get you until, like what you called it, your story, what your situation can get you, until you sit down with someone and let them know where you're actually at. And then we can go through and see what's the best program for you and see what we can get you into. Now, sometimes, you may not be able to do anything right now, but that's okay, because at least you have answers to your questions, and then you can put together a plan so that you can get there eventually. And that's really what's important about it. Okay, so this is why choosing the right lender is very, very important. And it's the most important thing about talking to a lender. Okay, but the most important thing is talking to a lender first. So you have banks. So if you are with a bank and you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to go talk to my bank, they have a mortgage program. That's fine. I mean, that is something you can do, and that's always your prerogative. And I always say, go ahead and, talk to other people, make sure that you're making a very informed decision. I even say that about us as a realtor. Go talk to other realtors if you want. I believe that we are the best, but we are always willing to, answer questions and make sure that you are informed, because that is the most important thing. This is a big decision. It's one of the biggest ones you'll make in your life. And so you should be informed on it. But banks work, so bankers, they work for the bank. Okay. They have a large bureaucracy. They have to go through their things. They only have the loans that the bank provides for them most of the time. Now, a broker, on the other hand, which is what Matthew is, they only get paid when you close. So they work per deal most of the time. And you kind of get a little bit better, more personalized service with that. I actually had one where they were with the bank. I think it was even just a few weeks ago. And I've actually never had one with a bank that closed on time, because they don't work weekends. They don't work late at nights. They work banker's hours. There's a reason those are called banker's hours. And I know loans don't, you can't do a lot with the loans during those times, but sometimes you just need to know things are okay. Sometimes you just need to know, hey, yes, this paper was turned in, and yes, we're progressing like this. And when someone's working for you and not for the institution, you can get more of that white glove service, that hands-on approach, as well as the fact that these lenders out there, they can go to and look at all these other options that sometimes the bank doesn't offer, because they're only offering their options that are out there. Do you have anything to say to that, Matthew, too?
No, I think you
Good.
summed it up perfectly. I mean,
Okay.
ultimately it comes down to when you go to the bank, which you should, like if you want to have conversations with multiple people, like Megan said, I highly recommend it. But the bank's got, their primary goal is checkings and savings. My primary goal is actually helping you understand your finances and achieve your goals of home ownership. So I'm able to shop around through 30, 40, 50 different avenues versus a single avenue like a bank does. So it opens up your options. It opens up the ability for you to achieve your goals. And I think more than anything, like Megan said, I'm also going to be available and answer my phone at 7, 8 o'clock at night, so that you feel you actually have an advocate on your side to help you progress through your goals.
Yeah. It's so important. It really is. This is a stressful experience. Sometimes we try to take most of it on our shoulders so you don't have it.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Mistake number 2 is doing the right thing, but in the wrong order. And I like to compare this to making a cake out of a boxed mix versus making a cake out of from scratch. Because with a box mix, you kind of just dump everything together, mix it up, and it's done, and you get a cake. It's not really that hard. But when you're buying a house, it's more like making a cake from scratch. And you get the recipe, and you can just throw everything in and you make it. Okay, you get a cake. Okay, you're going to get a cake like this, but it's not going to be a pretty cake. So you'll still might reach your end goal, but it's not going to turn out all the way you wanted. But if you actually follow the instructions, do things in the right order, mix the flour in a separate bowl with the other stuff, then mix it all in together, and do it correctly, you'll get a beautiful cake. And that's our goal, is so that we're going to give you kind of the right order to do things in, so that you can end up with a beautiful home and have the experience be a good one, and not end up with, whatever this thing is. Although my cakes look like that a lot. Okay, so this is the recipe for buying the house wrong. And let us know. Go ahead and type in there, raise your hand, whatever, if you've done some of these things, because a lot of you just spend 3 years or just have spent years looking on Zillow and Realtor and just scrolling through houses and just thinking, oh, I love this one. Oh, I wish I had that one. And you think, I want this so bad, but you never actually do anything about it. Sometimes you disqualify yourself from a neighborhood or home that may actually be attainable because you haven't spoke to a lender yet. You might call a few numbers off of signs. You might talk to a seller's agent here and there, walk into the new builds, walk into open houses. You can get really frustrated because you're not feeling like you know what the next step is, but you want to buy a house. And so sometimes people get overwhelmed and they even decide to stop looking, or else they just buy the first thing that they have, and then they don't get a good experience, or they don't get the best deal possible. So Here's the recipe for buying a house the right way. Okay. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to talk to us. Okay. You're going to book a call. Kelly's going to drop that one-on-one consult, link in there again, and you're going to talk to us, and we're going to sit down with you and just ask you questions about what it is that's motivating you, what it is that you're looking for, what your timeline is, kind of all those questions that really matter. Talk about your wants, talk about what you're needing. And we're going to put you in contact with Matthew so he can sit down and talk with you and go over what your finances are, what loans you'll qualify for. So you're going to have all of that. So the first thing you're going to do is book that with that link, and you can go ahead and do that now if you want. You can do it at the end, but you're going to talk to us. Absolutely free, and it's absolutely no pressure. We're just going to help you get on that right path. And then you're going to get pre-qualified with the lender. Or you're going to put together a plan once you talk to Matthew. You're going to get pre-qualified because we can't start looking at houses until you're pre-qualified. Or Matthew has a whole group to help you get to the point where you can be pre-qualified. So he has a whole finance fix it department. Word's not coming out in my head, right? What is it called?
Credit services.
Credit services. Thank you. I don't know why that went right out of my head. Credit services, they will help you get that credit score to where it needs to be to get you the most. Like I would just mentioned earlier that he'd helped my daughter get into a house recently, and we got her credit score because she'd messed that thing up. So she got it up. She got it up quite a bit. She actually got it up almost too much to qualify for the loan that she wanted there. So good thing she got it right there. And then after she got in the house, it just went whoop too. So
She did good. It helps.
they're really
It helps.
good. Yeah.
The main
Watching
thing I
it.
like to point out about credit services too is like that's a free service. So like everything that we're talking about today is about education. Both
Yes.
Megan and Kelly are going to do everything they can to educate you. And the same thing happens from the lending side of it. So our credit services that I offer is free to any applicant that I receive. They're going to spend time, they're certified FICO analysts. So if your credit score is at let's say a 580, we want to get to 620 or 640 so that we can start tapping into some of those down payment assistance programs. My certified FICO analyst will put a plan in front of you and tell you exactly what you need to do, what you need to pay off, and the time frame it's going to take in order to achieve that credit score you need. So a big part of this is education, and between what Megan and Kelly are providing as well as what I can provide, you're going to be equipped with the education you need to make good financial choices and decisions.
Right. And especially with something like this, you don't want to just start making these decisions on your own, because you may think that paying off this credit card completely is actually going to help you, and it will hurt you. It's really weird algorithms that the credit, system uses. And I think I heard the other day that the average person you have 77 different credit scores or some crazy number like that of credit scores, but they're not all affecting your mortgage, what your mortgage credit score would be. So you really need to make sure that you're talking to a mortgage professional so that you can do the things that you need to do and pay off what you need. And sometimes even paying down a little bit or adding another credit card might even get you to that score. So there's a lot of different things that are little nuances that you really want to take the time to do. So first, you're going to book that one-on-one with us. Then you're going to talk to Matthew and put together a plan or get pre-qualified. Once you do reach the point that's been pre-qualified, okay, you're going to make a list. We're going to sit down together then again, and we're going to have a buyer consultation, and you're going to put together a list of 5 wants that you need for a house, and 5 wants that you have for a house, and 5 things you need in a house. Okay. And these may feel like they're the same thing right now, but they're not. They're very different things. A need is something like, let's say you have to be to work at a certain time every day, and your kids go to a certain school, and so they need to take the bus to that school. So you need to live within the boundaries of that school so that your kids can take the bus to get to school. Okay, that's a need. That's something that you need to have happen. If you really like that school, but you work from home or you're a stay-at-home parent or something like that, and you do have the opportunity, the option to drive your kids to school and drop them off, it's not that big of a deal, but it would be easier if they lived in the boundaries of that school. But you want to kind of stay around there. Okay, that makes being in those boundaries a want. Because Arizona is school choice. You can go to most of the schools as long as you can get into them. It's really not a big deal that way. So that's not something that matters here, but sometimes that transportation is. So looking at those different things, like, kind of, you may want a yellow house, but you're going to settle for a brown one because you can paint it, kind of thing. So wants and needs are something that we're going to sit down and really go over. And then we're going to put you what's on a home search from the MLS so that you can see in real time exactly what houses are coming on the market. And then once we do that, you'll pick out a couple houses and we'll start looking. All right. So those are the first things we're going to do. The mistake number 3, okay, is going it alone, okay? Walking into a new build unrepresented or calling a listing agent unrepresented. And these things may not feel like that big of a deal, okay? When you walk into a builder's home and you meet the sales rep, they're so friendly, they're so nice. They give you water, what can I do to help you? They're super on the spot to greet you, right? When you walk into an open house, sometimes they have cookies and sometimes they do all sorts of fun things to get you in there. And they're so friendly and they are great conversationalists. And you're thinking, this is awesome. But you need to step back and think, okay, who do they represent? Okay. Who do they represent? Because I can tell you right now, the builder's rep, okay, they work for the builder. Okay. They always work for the builder. Their fiduciary duty, their loyalty is to the builder. It's not to you. Okay. When you walk into an open house, who do they represent? Right? They work for the seller. Okay. Their job is to save the seller money. Okay. Their job is to get the seller the best terms. They do not represent you. Okay. So when you come into these things unrepresented, who is representing you? Right. Now, someone will say that, you don't have to pay the seller's agent for representation if you use them. Okay. That becomes a thing called dual representation. And I'll tell you, I have done it. I do it. I don't love doing it. Because it basically just puts me in the position of being a moderator. So I'm not representing either side. And you guys are basically working out your deal and I'm handling the paperwork and just passing information on to both of you. So I don't feel like anybody always gets the best deal, but it is something that's legal in Arizona and it can happen. But I think it's always best if you are represented by someone who has your best interest at heart, who's fighting for you to get the very best deal, to get the best concessions, to make sure that your needs and your finances are taken care of throughout the process. So always, make sure that you have a realtor when you're walking to any of those situations so that you do have backup. Okay, and mistake number 4 is getting intimidated by the numbers. All right, now this is probably why a lot of you are here. I think this is the reason that most people have joined this webinar in the past as well. So let's overcome it. Let's see what we can do here. We're just going to talk really quick. What are closing costs? Okay, there's a whole bunch of closing costs. And just so you know, right up front, in this market right now, we are in a buyer's market. This is a great time to be a buyer because even though interest rates are a little bit higher than people want, and there's a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to wait until interest rates go down to get in the market. But what you're going to do is miss out on some of these opportunities that you have right now when interest rates are higher, and you always will have the opportunity to refinance when interest rates go down in the future. So that's something to keep in mind. But in this market right now, where it is such a strong, it's like the buyers have a lot of power right now. And we're able to get the sellers to pay for some of these fees right now, which you weren't able to do a few years ago. And you're able to negotiate so many more repairs on the house and making sure things are all the really important things are up to snuff and working. So that's great. But you do have these closing cost fees. So you do have institutional fees. You'll have the title company will charge you some fees. The lender will charge you some fees for your loan. And if you want to do a rate buy down at the beginning of it, then to buy down that rate a little bit to make that payment more comfortable for you, then that will be a fee up front. There are fees associated to certain loans. You have the one-time funding if you're doing a VA loan. And you can have mortgage insurance, which we talked a little bit about with the FHA if you do an FHA loan. There are prepaid fees that you'll need to think about. This includes things like HOA fees and taxes and insurances that you'll have to take care of. Now, these all come to usually anywhere between 1% to 3% of the purchase price of the house overall. But a lot of the time, like I said, in this market right now, we can ask for these as concessions, they're called, and ask the seller to give you this much money back to go towards these fees. So it's really finding, and it's dependent on the house and depending on the seller's motivation and that kind of thing. But if this is something that concerns you, know that when we're looking, we can say, hey, are they willing to take concessions before you even look at the house, to know that it's something that's a possibility when we make that offer. And if you have any questions about these fees, go ahead and drop them in that box. Like we said, we will address them here at the end. Okay, now I want you to put this into perspective here. I say it's all about the monthly payment. And I want to say this because I know a lot of the time when I go to buy a car, it's not about the monthly payment to me as much because I know that car is going to depreciate as soon as I drive it off the lot, right? So when I go to buy a car, I always I always argue over the purchase price of the car very first with the car salesman. And once we come to a price that we can agree on, then I say, okay, now let's work out the financing and see if we can get a financing that fits what my payments can be and I'm comfortable with. When you're buying a house, that house is they've always appreciated over time. Okay. Even people who bought at the height of the recession, their homes have regained that value in 2015. They were back to the value that they bought at. So knowing that when you buy land, it's a little bit different. So it is literally about that monthly payment. Now, I'm not saying go 100K up in price and hope you can negotiate the home down. What I'm saying is when you're looking at houses, one may have a pool and one doesn't, but it might be a little bit more expensive. But maybe there's a loan program associated with that house that can help you to get you in. Maybe it's closer to a fire hydrant, so your insurance is going to be enough to put you down into that price range that you want. There can be a lot of things about it. So sometimes it's great to have that lender who goes the extra mile, can run those numbers for you on that house and say, yeah, let's get it. Maybe they can maybe we can get those concessions taken care of or a rate buy down from that buyer, from that seller on that house to get you into the house. There's so many options. So sometimes maybe looking a little bit above what you're comfortable in spending overall might get you actually a lower payment in the end. So we always want to, keep our options a little bit open and make sure that you're working with a trusted realtor and a trusted lender that can help you run those numbers to make sure that you're getting the very best deal in something. So, that little bit of extra money you're going to put on the house at the end of the day for the thing is your payment's going to be less, and gives you so much more equity at the end of the day because you did put that little bit more money on your loan up front, if that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, drop them in there. I think I went a little on it, but hope you got the idea of it. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about credit. Are you concerned about your credit? Okay. So if this is something that's holding you back from wanting to move forward, don't worry about it. We can put you on the path to reaching your goals. Like I've told you, you don't know until you don't know. And there is a strategy for repair on past due accounts. Okay. So don't do anything to fix your credit up front without talking to a lender and their credit care people first. Okay. Very important things to remember. All right, let's talk a little bit about down payments really quick. So some of these things, one of these columns you can't use for down payment, and one of them you can use for down payment. So if you have any idea which one is which, go ahead and take a guess. The one on the right, the one on the left. I'll tell you right now, this one, you cannot use these things, okay? You cannot use stocks and bonds. You can't just give them some stocks and say those count as a down payment because they're probably worth this much. That doesn't work. You can't use undocumented cash. Okay, now let me explain really quick what that is. We had a lady a couple years ago. This is one of our favorite stories because I feel bad for her because she thought she was doing the right thing, but she'd taken a whole bunch of side jobs for the last 10, 20 years. And all the money she made from tips and working on these side jobs and things, she'd taken it and she'd put it in a safety deposit box. And she came to me and she said, I really want to buy a house. I have $100,000 in cash in this safety deposit box she wanted to use to buy the house. And we said, there's no way you can use that cash to buy a house because it's undocumented. So to the government, to the banks, it looks like illegal money. They don't know where it came from. They can't track it from anywhere. So they don't know that you got it legally. So they won't even touch it. So she had to kind of start making deposits into her account. She could do little deposits. If she put the whole thing in, then of course the government was going to take some in taxes because they were going to come and say, where did all this money come from that you didn't pay taxes on this whole time? They always want their cut. So it was really sad to see. So undocumented cash, okay? You cannot use undocumented cash. So if you have it on your mattress, if you have it buried in the yard, which I know people who do, and that's okay. For some things, it's just not okay for buying a house. Know that you'll have to start putting it into accounts a little bit at a time, and maybe that plan will be a year to 2 years to use that money. You cannot take out a personal loan to use as a down payment, and you can't use your credit card for down payment. Okay, things you can use. You can use your retirement accounts. You can use your 401k. You can take, money out against that and use that. You can take gifts. Okay. So with my kids, I've always given them a gift for their down payment on their house so that they can get into that first house. They can take that from family members, right? You can't take it from other people. It has to be
Correct.
family. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be, yeah.
Okay. It has to be
Good.
family members. Okay. And you can use cash savings. So if you have a savings account in a bank and you've always transferred money from one account to the other or from stocks and bonds into your, to your savings account, that's money that you can use. So you can cash out your stocks, put that money in savings, and then use that money, for a down payment. So I hope that all makes sense there too. That, a little bit of is, you can cross things over a little bit to make it work for you, but no undocumented cash and just flat out stocks and bonds are no-nos, loans are no-nos, but you can do gifts from family members and you can use cash savings that's in an account.
And those are all questions that we'll have or comments or conversations that we'll have. And I'll explain to you all the steps because if there's a will, there's a way. We just have to document it, tell your story the right way so that we satisfy all the requirements.
Oh, very good. Yes, true. Probably get some stuff there if you need to. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go through really pretty quickly here the 5 steps involved in buying a home in 30 days or less. Most homes take 30 to 45 days to close once you've made the offer on it. So we're going to go through the 5 steps to buying a home, and then we're going to include costs. So if this is something you want to write down, these costs, if you want to, kind of have an idea of what it's actually going to cost you to get into that home, then this is the time we're going to do it. So if you're ready, go ahead and raise your hand, say yes, let's hear you. Let's do this. Okay. How much does it cost for our team to get you in shape to buy a house? This is the first question. Put it in the chat. Okay. How much does that cost you? Okay. If you said it's free, then you are 100% right. Okay. It costs you absolutely nothing. And as I said before, it's no pressure. We truly are here to educate, to answer your questions, to help you get in that position. If it's something that's down the road, we're here to stand by you and work with you the whole time, all the way through everything. So it's free. So Kellie's dropping that link in there one more time. If you want to sign up, go ahead and jump ahead of the game and feel free to click the link in the chat. It is a completely free consultation with me or Kellie, and we'll go over your finances, help you develop a roadmap to homeownership and success. Okay. First thing you're going to do. Okay, ready? The second thing is, let's say you found the house. So we've done all the other things. We found the house we want. We made the offer and it's accepted. Okay. This is where the 30 days start. You're going to have to put down an earnest money deposit. Okay. This deposit is due within 24 hours of an accepted contract. So let's say we made that offer and it was accepted today. You're day one and you have let me stop here. It's usually 1% of the purchase price, but it could be more. So if your house is $500,000, let's say, then you're going to have to put $5,000 down as an earnest money deposit. Okay. Now, it is fully refundable during the 10-day inspection period. Okay. So you have 10 whole days to do any and all inspections on this house and make sure that it's what you want. And these inspections can be everything. We'll go over costs of like some physical inspections on the property, but it also includes things like driving to work and making sure that the commute isn't crazy bad. It's checking out the neighborhood, crime reports, all those kind of things as well. So you have that 10 whole days to make sure that it's that it's what you want. And if it's not, we can get that money back for you. But that 10 days starts. So let's say we went under contract today. Day one of that 10-day inspection period begins tomorrow. Okay. So you do have a full 24 hours of that, for that first day of your inspection period to learn. Okay. Once you're under contract, we are going to do, like I said, the physical inspections on the home. Okay, so you're going to bring in a general inspector. First of all, we have great general inspectors that we work with. Of course, if you have one that you want, absolutely welcome to use them. But they're usually between $550 and $650 to do that general inspection. They go through the house, they look at the roof, they make sure the AC is running correctly, that it's getting cold, that it's heating up if it needs to. They run the dishwasher, they make sure all the plugs are working, light switches are working, faucets are working, things are draining, all that kind of stuff. They give you an overall report on the property. There'll also be a termite inspection that you'll need to do, especially if you do an FHA loan or a VA loan. You have to have a termite inspection, and those are usually around $90. Okay. And then any other inspections you want. Okay. So if the general inspector turns up like, hey, the AC is it's running, but it's kind of wonky, then we want to get an actual AC inspector in there, and they'll charge you. It's anywhere from 85 to, I've seen it as high as 115. Ours is around $85 to come in and do an inspection on the AC unit and make sure that it's working and find anything that's wrong with it. Because we want to make sure that we're asking for those things to be repaired. Okay. So at the end of the day, if it matters to you, we get it inspected. So I've seen the inspection costs go up to as high as $1,500, but that was because it was also a ranchette and they had a well and they did a property survey and they had, a few other things that they wanted checked out as, they had a septic tank as well, a whole bunch of things. So those all inspections all added up, but most of the time you're on, $650 to, $1,000 at the most to have all of these physical inspections done so that you feel secure. But at the end of the day, it's most important to know that if it matters to you, we get it inspected because this is your time to check out the house and make sure everything's good. Okay. Based on the inspections, we have 3 different options that we can do. We can terminate the contract completely. Okay. We can just say, hey, this isn't working. We, say we're done, and they give us your earnest money back and you walk away and we start the home search again. So it's super easy. If there's things that you just want fixed, we have this form called the BINSR, we call it, but it's Buyer Inspection Notice Seller Response. Okay. Blah, it's a handful, right? A mouthful.
That's why we call it Benzer.
Yeah, that's why we call it a BINSR. So, but on this, we can ask the seller to make repairs. And I always say, we ask for major items. Now, if you walked in and you didn't like the paint color, I'm sorry, you don't like the paint color, you're going to have to repaint the house by yourself. People aren't going to fix that for you 99.9% of the time. But you can ask for, I always say, ask for anything that's important: plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roofing, pool equipment, those kind of things. We ask for them to repair those things. But it can be anything that matters to you. We try to keep it at those things because you can lose the deal over it. But at the same time, it's just another point of negotiation. We do the best we can to get you what matters to you. And then they can come back. They have 5 days after we drop off that BINSR to them to decide what they're going to fix and what they won't. And then we have 5 days to decide if we're going to accept their response or walk away from the house, and you get your earnest money back and we move on. Now, note that when you get your earnest money back, you don't get your inspection costs back. So on the next house, you'll have to do those same inspection costs. So that is something to keep in mind. But, more often than not, I think I've only had one where we couldn't work out the BINSR and they walked. Really, most often than not, we can work something out, because we can also do the third option here, which is a reduction in the price, or we can get concessions from them to go towards the closing costs so that you have money to put back into those things to fix later at the end of it. So those are 3 different options that you have at the end of that BINSR. If you have any questions about that, drop that in there. And just know that as we're going through all of this with you, we will be reminding you of it. Okay, then the next cost is it's time for an appraisal. Okay, we have an appraiser come out. The bank doesn't want to lend on a home that doesn't appraise for what it's worth, what you're buying it for. So they're going to come out and make sure that it appraises for that amount. Now, this will cost you $600 to $700. It's kind of gone up in the last couple of years. And just know at this time, everything's felt busy and hurried, and you've been signing papers and you've been looking at things and checking, getting quotes on things to fix, all sorts of things. But then all of a sudden, everything goes quiet for a while. Okay. And just know that during this time, you just make sure that you're checking your email every day, that if Matthew reaches out to you, if the title company reaches out to you, you're responding quickly to them and getting in any paperwork that they do need to move the loans forward and move the closing forward. And during this time, very important here, it says although things are slower and you're excited to move into your new home, do not buy anything, okay? I literally had one person buy a car 3 days before they closed on their house. And guess what happened? They did not get to get their house, okay? Anything. Okay, now here's what we're all excited about. It's closing day, okay? So you can sign paperwork up to 3 days before closing, depending on making sure that the loan's all ready to go. But this does not mean that the home is yours, okay? And if you've come from another state, sometimes different states, I know where I'm from in Utah, we signed paperwork at the closing table and then they just handed us the keys and we went into our new house. That is not the case here. That is not how it works here. You'll sign paperwork. The home is not yours until the close of escrow date that we put on the contract. So the seller will sign separate from you. You'll sign your paperwork. And then when closing day comes, the title company sends the paperwork over to the lender funds the loan, sends it back to title, and then title sends it off to record. So on that day, we have no idea what time you're going to be closing. It could be 11 in the morning. It could be 5 o'clock at night. So don't plan on moving in until later that day or the next day, honestly, to be there. So that's it. Okay, so if you have any questions on how that works or closing, drop those in the comments. Okay, so let me know how you're feeling now. Okay, if you're less anxious, if you're less intimidated, if you feel more informed, if you're excited, if you're ready to go, let me know in the chat. Okay, And also, if you want to book that one-on-one consult with us, if you feel less anxious, if you feel more informed, and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to take the next step, now's the time. Go ahead and book, like I said, a one-on-one consult with us in that chat. It's completely free. It's truly no pressure. We just really want to help you take those next steps into getting a home because we know buying a home is a big deal and it can be overwhelming. So we'd love to walk it through with you, set up that consultation, and we'll figure out the best steps for you to get into that new home. Um, so go ahead and click that link below. Did you have any questions for us, Kellie? Were there any in the chat that we need to answer?
What is the difference of a pre-qualification and a pre-approval?
Okay. Do you want to answer that? Or
I
do you
would
want me
love
to?
to. No, that's totally, I would love to
Yeah, it's a
answer.
great
That's a
question.
great question. So typically a pre-qualification is where a lender or your bank is going to do very minimal work and they'll just provide a pre-qual letter saying that you're in a position to finance. A pre-approval is going to be one that they're actually collecting bank statements, pulling your credit, reviewing your W-2s, your pay stubs. So one's a little less documentation, one's a little bit more. Typically, having more upfront is better. That way you can avoid any roadblocks down the line. So documentation is going to be the biggest difference between the two.
Right. Yeah, and it's super important. Yeah, to note that I can't show you a house. You can't make an offer on a house with a pre-approval. It needs to be a pre-qualification. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. How many homes do buyers usually look at before they place an offer?
So honestly, the average is truly 10 to 15 is what most people look at. But I mean, I've had, the one review I read there was one. And I'll tell you personally, I looked for a whole year for the house that I wanted. There are some realtors out there who will pressure you to get into a house. They're like, hey, this is the one. We don't work that way. I truly believe that, a home is something that you are guided to, and when you find that home, you know it. And so looking at homes, we're so patient, want to make sure that you find the right one for you. Now, if we've looked at, a whole bunch of homes that have every single box checked of every single one of your needs, then we might have a conversation about, hey, or if you're looking at things outside of your, price point, then we might have a little talk about that. But for the most part, it's different based on each person, but the average is 10 to 15 houses is what most people will look at before they find one. With us doing all the consultations and sitting down with you and really narrowing down that search before we look, we've really narrowed in on what you want and what you're looking for. And so that's important. As we go out and look, we're kind of hitting those things with your needs and your wants right up front is the goal. So that we're showing you houses that are ones that you'd actually want to make an offer on and not just, oh yeah, this one looks nothing like what I want, but I wanted to see it anyway, kind of thing.
And some buyers change those needs and wants, so it can rotate. But yes, once you narrow down those, I had buyers, we went to Casa Grande, Maricopa,
Yes. Yeah.
Chandler. We ended up in Santan Valley, but their needs and wants kept changing. So it really is just what your calling is. You guys will know. You'll
Yeah.
know
Well,
when you walk into that house, it's yours.
right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it truly is. Sometimes it's that you're looking for these, you think you have in mind what you want, and then you start looking at houses and you go, oh, shoot, this isn't what I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Or like different areas, like Kellie just said, right? You're looking in, you're thinking, okay, I don't know what area I want to live in. So maybe we'll go look at 10 houses in Casa Grande, 10 houses in Scottsdale, 10 houses in, Chandler, that, all on different days so that you can really know the area and see what communities you really like better. We're willing to do that and take the time. Looks like we have a question here with the hand raised.
Yeah, so I've been asking around mostly about the loan process of buying a home
Uh-huh.
um, and had a few comments and suggestions that when purchasing a house, you'd want to put like $20,000 down and then wait 60 days and put the other 80 or $100,000 down, essentially recasting to make it better. Is that true or is that just a rumor?
I mean, recasting, a lot of times, if you don't have the funds available, like right at the moment that you're trying to purchase the property, then recasting down the road can be beneficial because you're going to reduce your principal and then recast the remaining principal based on the time of the loan that's remaining. But if you have the funds available up front, I don't think you're hurting or negating yourself or damaging yourself or benefiting yourself by not just putting that money down up front. Now, there's different ways of utilizing those funds, right? So sometimes looking to see if putting maybe 10% down, 50% down, 5% down, and leveraging those different variables of down payment to adjust your mortgage insurance, that could be beneficial. But ultimately, if you have the funds available, just put it down. Or in some cases, like we did this with Megan's daughter, where we actually put less money down, allocated those funds for other resources outside of the home buying process because it made sense from them from a financial perspective. So a good lender is going to go through all those steps with you and understand what you're trying to accomplish to see if those funds are better used upfront or potentially in other ways. But there's no real benefit by recasting down the road 2 months if you have the funds available to start.
So they don't necessarily give you like a lower interest rate if you put less down and have PMI on the house.
So that can be a difference. So like, for example, you said 20,000 or 20% down. What was the question there?
Either like, let's say I have 100 grand and I'm trying to decide in what order to put it down on a $400,000 house.
Gotcha. So now, so yes, there are some times where if you put 15% down versus 20% down, having mortgage insurance, we talked about this earlier with like FHA loans. Sometimes when you carry mortgage insurance, you will actually see a reduction, what we call overlays in your interest rate. So it's possible that you have a lower interest rate by putting 15% down versus 20% down. So then turning around and buying your principal down 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road, that's fine, but you're still going to need an appraisal. So you're spending another $600, $700, $800 for an appraisal to happen to show that the value is actually there in order for you to reduce your or to
Oh,
drop your
okay.
mortgage insurance. And if you had like an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance is going to be on the property for the life of the loan. The only way you're going to drop MI is by doing a refinance. So having a real full transparent conversation with a lender who understands what you're trying to accomplish and walks you through those steps, you're likely going to have some better solutions in front of you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
That answer
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Great, great. Yeah. And if you want to, like, if anybody's interested, like I said, we book those one-on-ones with us, book it, we'll get you in touch with Matthew and you can have that conversation with him for sure. Are there any other questions, Kelly?
That's all I got.
Okay. So yeah, fun fact, just so everybody knows, the average net worth of homeowners is $250,000, while the average net worth of a renter is only $6,000. So if you don't own your home, chances are you're paying someone else's mortgage. Okay, our job here is to help you to the best of our ability. So make sure that you click that link, schedule that chat, schedule a free consultation with us. Like we said, it's free. It really is no pressure. We're just here to help. We'd love to talk with you and help you through this. That's what we do. We love our jobs. We love helping people, especially, get into those homes. Whether it's your first time home buyer, if you're upgrading, if you're downsizing, we do it all, but we are here to help and make that process smooth. And even if you're moving from another state and you're here in Arizona for the first time, it is different. I remember when I closed on my house in Arizona, moving from Utah, I was in tears that day, because it was such a stressful situation. My realtor didn't have our back. I felt so confused. And that's why I became a realtor, because I never wanted anybody to feel that. So we really put our heart into it for sure. So yeah, book now, click that link. Let us know if you have any other questions. We are here to walk you through it. And we will have this available on a replay. It might be a minute late because I did forget to click record up front, but it will be on
in time.
Yeah, close enough, right? But it will be on the replay for you all. Yeah. So if there's no more questions,
real information for you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you have any friends who are thinking of buying or selling, send them that link also. We're happy to sit down and talk with them and go over their situations. Like I said, we work off of referrals. We'll always take care of your family and friends too, as good as we would take care of you. We make sure and go out of our way in the extra mile for everybody. Any other questions?
No, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. It really means a lot, and we hope you gain some information. We hope it's maybe a little less overwhelming, but that's what we're here for, to take all that overwhelmingness away from you. So we do appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yep, exactly. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
And
Thanks,
book that
everyone.
link.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.